The tank is full, the engine's humming, those wide open roads are beckoning. So sit back and get ready for Motoring 88. Brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. This week on Motoring 88.
I'm not really concerned out there. To tell you the truth, when I watch my friends race, it's harder watching than it is driving, believe me.
My goal has been to produce a section that people will say, before I buy a car, I must read the wheel section.
We're in the automotive building at the C&E Exhibition Grounds in Toronto this week. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Motoring 88. This, of course, is where last week's Molson Indy was held, and this building occupied all the different garages, all the different teams. This is where they did the work before the race. And you know what really turns me on about this sport? The cars, naturally, but maybe even more so, the trucks that get the teams from one site to another. And throughout the half hour, we're going to check out these amazing machines. But up first, we're going to join Steve Grant, who was at one of his favorite places this past week, the racetrack. And while there, he happened to bump into one of our favorite personalities.
Using the back muscles only.
Have you ever wondered what Charlie Goodman does when he's not teaching driving techniques? Well, you might have guessed, there's more to Charlie than just do's and don'ts.
Come with me, and I'll show you what I mean. Up. And up. Down. And down.
When Charlie has the time, he loves to practice what he preaches. On this weekend, he finds himself preparing to race in the Firestone Firehawk, a grassroots series that puts the emphasis on driver ability.
Okay, I just have to get suited up.
Well, it all started approximately a year ago where Firestone was trying to find an area that they can get involved in motorsports at the regional level. We felt that that's the best way that we could get in is at the regional level and promote and support grassroots regional racing.
The series involves 4 classes of vehicles, ranging from Porsches to Hondas. Charlie is racing in the showroom stock touring class.
Well, we tend to run somewhere in the front to the middle of our class. We've placed high in the first 2 races, and we're looking forward to more high finishes. The series is starting to get popular, and as it gets popular, more competition comes in, and that's all more for the good of the fun. It's not really where you finish, it's the fact that you do finish, and that's really, I can't emphasize that too much. Nobody here, except in the Firehawk series, is racing for cash, and even in the Firehawk series, it's certainly not enough to pay your expenses. So if you're not out here having a good time, one has to question your sanity. There are a lot of people here having an awful lot of fun. The place is packed.
The basic rules are that you have to have a mandatory pit stop. Driver change is not necessary, although the driver does have to get out of the car. And that is to kind of equalize it and put a little more fun into the pit area of an endurance type of racing. So it's not only just the racing and the driver and the tires, it's the pit area and the pit crew. So it's a real team effort. And from a grassroots point of view, the guys really like that because it involves our whole team, a lot of volunteers, and we really encourage that.
So you were standing up in the top of corner 2 watching the race?
Yeah.
Yes, and what did you think of it?
I now know why Mom doesn't come here.
Oh, you know that now, do you?
She would be a much older woman if she came here.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I aged 4 years today. And that was only a 10-minute race.
She stays home, makes all those big desserts. You're a good fan for coming. You came out for the free beer tonight. That's why you came out.
Okay, Kim, your dad doesn't do this for a living. How does it feel to see him all suited up and ready to go?
Very exciting, but very scary. It's to see him out there doing it. I'm scared he's going to get hurt, but he's having so much fun. It's incredible.
You're here. Your dad's here. Where's your mom? Is this too much for her?
Oh, she never comes out. She thinks if she comes out, they might have an accident. She might jinx them, and she can't watch it. She gets really upset. So she sits at home, makes dinner, and waits for everyone to call her.
So what's going through your mind right now? You're just moments away from the start.
Relaxing, taking a few deep breaths and just relaxing and being ready to perform.
All right. Well, good luck to you, and we'll see you in an hour when we hit the pit stop.
All right. Yes, I hope that it does take a full hour before we see you. Yes, that'll mean all's going well.
Is this hard work?
No, it's not work. No, it isn't. Once you're comfortable in the car, it's so safe out there. All the track marshals do their job. I'm not really concerned out there. To tell you the truth, when I watch my friends race, it's harder watching than it is driving, believe me. You're very comfortable in the car.
Charlie's been out there almost an hour now, and the next step is a fuel stop. But not only a fuel stop, they'll change drivers, and Scott Maxwell will jump in the car and finish the rest of the race.
Fine. No, I'm not seeing any smoke. Do you see any smoke along here? No.
Charlie,
that's
where's the
good.
gas in it?
It's half.
Charlie, Mom, I've never seen you drive.
There you are. The chief says he liked it. That makes my day. What can I tell you? Not bad for an old guy.
Smile for the camera.
Well, you're working hard out there, my buddy. Huh? Hey. We're not sure if it's fourth or third. Worked our tails off. We're still not sure where we're at.
I was hoping for a yellow to catch the guys in front of us, but it never came.
Well, Charlie and Scott will likely be talking about this race into the wee hours of the morning, but at this point, they don't know if they finished third or fourth. It really doesn't matter, though, because there's nobody in this race who had more fun than Charlie Goodman.
It's always fun when you finish the race. Whether you're at the front or whether you're at the back, this is just a blast.
Bonneville is a heavy car, and even with the upgraded suspension on the SSE, it still leans a lot when you throw it around the corners.
Next on Motoring 88, bring on the Bonneville.
Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. The engine in the new Quaker State Porsche Indy car develops 750 horsepower. That's why it takes Quaker State oil with new QSX to protect it. At 11,000 RPM, engine temperatures soar. Quaker State's new advanced QSX formula is proven to run clean for unbeatable protection. And the new QSX formula that protects this engine on the track is the same Quaker State you buy right off the shelf. Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
What exactly does Nissan mean by hard body truck? Well, let's say you want a V6 engine. A powerful V6 engine. What exactly does Nissan mean by hard body truck? Well, let's say you want to help someone move.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
This week on Test Drive, we're looking at the 1988 Bonneville SSE. Now, the days of the flat tyre when you had to hobble round to the gas station and beg for air are gone, thanks to this nifty little device. It plugs into the same compressor that runs the load levelling suspension. Once hooked onto the tyre, you push a button in the trunk and Bob's your uncle. No more flat tyre. Once we've filled this one up, we're going to go to the skid pan and see how the Bonneville fares. And the first test will be to run down through the cones and find out what the suspension is made of. The Bonneville is a heavy car, and even with the upgraded suspension on the SSE, it still leans a lot when you throw it around the corners. For our second test, we're going to run the Bonneville up to 100 kilometers an hour and see how long it takes. Having driven the Bonneville before, it's always appeared quite quick, so it'll actually be nice to see what it actually runs with a clock on it. Having found out that the Bonneville will reach 100 kilometers an hour in 9.6 seconds, the all-important test now is the brakes. This car features an ABS system, so it'll be interesting to see how well it stops. And here we go. Certainly does. One of the things that you first notice when you start to drive the SSE is the amount of exhaust drone. It, I guess, is associated with the sports system which they've used to enhance the sporty aspects of the car. I'm sure some people are going to find the drone overpowering. Under the hood of the SSE is a new engine that GM have called the 3800. It is in fact a 3.8 litre V6 that's fuel injected and coupled to a 4-speed automatic overdrive transmission. A nice package, a lot of power in the engine, and the shifts are smooth from the transmission. The front seats have umpteen different adjustments, and what surprised me about it was that there was little lateral support given the sporty overtones of the SSE. As I mentioned on the skid pad, the load leveling suspension that the SSE features means that if you load the trunk up, the suspension will raise itself or pump itself up to give you a nice level, flat, smooth ride. The Bonneville nameplate has appeared on a lot of different cars over the years, but for me, this one is the most attractive by far. My pet peeve this week is to do with the dashboard, and more specifically the speedo. For some reason, GM chose to mark the different speeds in odd numbers, 70, 90, 110, etc., when most of the speed limits that you're expected to obey are even numbered, 60, 80, 100. I don't know. Anyway, let's go to the scoreboard and find out how I rated the rest of the Bonneville. The 88 SSE features anti-lock brakes, and so as usual the stops were short and predictable, and so another high 8 out of 10. In the handling department, the Bonneville is better than most large cars, but it still has a tendency to lean when you push it hard into corners. The new 3800 engine gives the Bonneville a lot of get up and go. In fact, I was quite pleasantly surprised by its pep. But you'll notice a lot of exhaust drone. It doesn't bother me, but I'm sure it will bother some people. Again, the SSE is no economy car, but given its size and performance, 25 miles per gallon is better than I expected.
Front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive? Does it matter? We'll tell you later on Behind the Wheel.
When Motoring 88 returns, Bill Gardner hits the brakes.
Now, I know this may sound silly, but you know what really impresses me about this truck? Imagine the miles and kilometers it puts on every week. Well, I can't find a bug, dead or alive, on the front. Must be a trucker's secret. Incidentally, this particular truck houses the #1 Indy team, the Penske team. And speaking of #1, our #1 mechanic is standing by, Bill Gardner, and he's going to begin the first of a two-part series on the brakes.
Well, for the driver, here's where the brake system starts, right at the pedal. Now, a lot of potential problems with the brake system are going to feed back some information back through that pedal. You're going to get a feel for what's happening in the car. And we're going to identify a few of those things. First of all, before you start away, you should make sure that you have a high, hard pedal, a good firm brake pedal, before you even put the car into motion for the first time. Now, if the pedal goes down too far, goes close to the floor, and gets higher on repeat applications, that means that your brakes are out of adjustment and they actually require some mechanical adjustments. If the pedal feels spongy and very low and soft, that's an indication that there's air in the hydraulic system and the brakes require bleeding. Now, if the pedal pulsates when you apply the brakes when the car's in motion, if you get a pulsating pedal, that's an indication that you've got some wear in the disc brake rotors, some uneven wear, or in the brake drums, or you've got some brake caliper problems. The calipers aren't tracking the normal amount of runout. That little red brake indicator lamp on the dash of every car is quite an important little device. It should come on every time you start the car in order to check that circuit and verify that the bulb itself is working properly. Now, after you release the emergency brake, if that light remains on, that's an indication that your emergency brake system is hanging up somehow and the emergency brake hasn't fully released. Now, if it comes on while you're driving the car or while you apply the brakes, that's an indication that you've got a fluid loss in the system, in the hydraulic system, or you've got a defective component such as a master cylinder that's allowing an imbalance of pressure between the front and rear brakes. That can bring that light on. The master cylinder. This is where mechanical energy is converted into hydraulic pressure that's used down at the wheels to apply the brakes. You want to inspect this area for any signs of fluid leakage here, around the tubes, the brake lines, or the fittings that screw into the master cylinder, and also around the lid area. Make sure that there's no leakage coming from that lid area. One of the spots you want to inspect is right here where the master cylinder mounts to the brake booster. Make sure that there's no leakage in this area. Also check the tubes and the fittings that thread into the master cylinder, and also check this area here where the lid has to seal. Make sure that there's no fluid leakage around that lid. Clean the lid and remove it. If the fluid level's down and you need to add some fluid, make sure that you consult this lid or your owner's manual to make sure that you're installing the correct fluid for that vehicle. It's written on here or in the owner's manual. Reinstall the lid. Make sure it's on tightly, securely, so that there won't be any leaks. Next week we're going to pull the wheels off, show you what goes on down there in the brake system. Until then, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 88.
And now, behind the wheel with Charlie Goodman.
It is a proven principle that putting additional weight over a wheel allows the tire to have better adhesion. Thus, if we take the differential and the transmission and put them all up at the front with the engine and make the front wheels the driving wheels, as in the term front wheel drive, we will have better traction in our car, especially in slippery conditions. We'll show you what we mean on the skid pad. Now the car will be going into a skid shortly, and we'll lift entirely off and we'll see what happens. Here we go, skid, lift off, and about 3/4 of a circle. Perhaps there is a better answer. Well, most people know that if you read all the right books, that what you have to do in a rear-wheel drive car is give the car the gas. But that leaves us with a question. How much gas? We're coming to the skid area, and not yet. We're still on it. We're still on it. And I think there we go. There we go. All the way around, the full 360 degrees. Obviously, it doesn't work if you give the car too much gas either. Well, goodness gracious, what is the answer? Well, folks, the answer is that somewhere between too much gas and no gas at all, there's a place on that throttle pedal that will keep the car in balance. Let's go see if we can find it. This is not easy. This time we're going to try to just hold the throttle somewhere around the middle, and that should keep the car balanced, and if we steer into the slide, we'll recover and we'll be on our way. Here we go, skid, recover, and we're going straight ahead, and we're still motion. As you can see, the car did not spin around. We're still continuing on our way down the road. We regained control of the car. That's how you drive a rear-wheel drive car. In a front-wheel drive car, drive around the skid pad and we'll start to pick up speed until the tires start to lose their adhesion. Now we'll put it into a slide and we'll let go of everything and see what happens. Here we go. There. The car has continued substantially straight ahead. The car did not swing around. One advantage of front-wheel drive over rear-wheel drive. This time we will give the car the throttle and we will steer into the slide, which is accepted skid control technique. We're at the point of adhesion, and we're about ready. Here we go. Into a slide, give it the gas, and we're straight on our way and under control again. Notice how quickly we came back under control using front-wheel drive. Now, just in case you thought I was cheating, this time I'll put the throttle right to the floor. Remember, this spun the rear-wheel drive car totally around. Here we go. Right to the floor. And we're still continuing on straight on our way. We had the throttle totally depressed. We had the front wheels actually spinning. The point of the lecture is you cannot spin a front-wheel drive car whether you lift off or whether you give it the gas. As long as you don't touch the brake pedal, the front-wheel drive car will remain stable.
So he said to me, how long do you need to produce the first issue? I said, 8 weeks. He said, you've got 4, get on with it.
Still ahead on Motoring 88, inside Canada's largest automotive weekly.
Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. The engine in the new Quaker State Porsche IndyCar develops 750 horsepower. That's why it takes Quaker State oil with new QSX to protect it. At 11,000 RPM, engine temperatures soar. Quaker State's new advanced QSX formula is proven to run clean for unbeatable protection. And the new QSX formula that protects this engine on the track is the same Quaker State you buy right off the shelf. Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
On the outside, it may look like a truck, but on the inside, you are looking at a 5-star garage. Anything the mechanic needs, he's going to find right here. Even a hammer, and it's all on wheels. And speaking of wheels, that's what Sandra Neal wants to talk about this week, except these wheels are on paper.
Newspapers reach their peak in volume, both in sales and in content, with their weekend edition. In fact, the Toronto Star's Wheel section, which comes out every Saturday, has become the most popular part of the newspaper. Now that's something that editor Dennis Morgan never expected.
Okay, this week's issue, Graham, you're doing a cover story on Bobby Rahal. We may be colour, we may be black and white, we're not sure yet. I can't claim that it was my idea. The managing editor of the Toronto Star at the time came to me and said, we're going to do this, would you like to run it? And I said, yes, I would love to, I think it's a wonderful idea. And he said, go ahead, it's your baby, you do what you like with it. I had to find writers, editors, photographers, etc. So he said to me, how long do you need to produce the first issue? I said, 8 weeks. He said, you've got 4, get on with it. In fact, it was an overnight success, and we're now coming up to our 2nd birthday, which makes it probably the only newspaper section that I know of in North America that has a complete editorial automotive section.
What's kind of weird is a lot of people, they think because you're writing every week that you know everything, and they want advice. It's like your God. Tell me what I should do. Tell me what I should buy. Tell me where I should go and get my car polished. I've been writing about cars since '76 for magazines, so I don't know an awful lot, but it's real easy to tap dance.
There's no sort of suggestion on Dennis's part or anyone's part that I'm writing for the section because I am a woman, although it certainly helps to have a female point of view. Women are much more involved with cars in their decisions to buy a car and just general maintenance and safety aspects.
I've managed to track down a fellow whose car actually caught fire a few months ago, and
it's been really rewarding to see how the section has taken off, and also to just the feedback from people who've read the stories and say, hey, that was a nice piece. You just know that there's a lot of people out there paying attention to it.
Most people in Canada will be aware of the major US car magazines, Car and Driver, Road and Track, Motor Trend. These magazines sell roughly 700 to 800,000 copies a month throughout North America, and maybe 10% of that circulation is in Canada. So 800,000 a month. We sell 800,000 a week.
Well, I'm surprised that somebody didn't start a Wheels before this. I mean, there are very few newspapers in Canada that have such a section, and I think it's successful because it reports to consumers and to readers about the kinds of things that they would like to know about before they buy a car.
I do most of my work at home except when I'm driving in these wonderful cars. And I have my portable tape recorder, I've got a portable computer, I've got my cellular phone now, so I'm the electronic office personified. I have 2 columns in the Saturday paper. Typically there's one road test where I evaluate some of the latest and greatest automotive technology. And the second column is something called carte blanche, where I get to write whatever I want, and that's a journalist's dream. This old beast is a little bit slow, but it does the job for me.
His readership is phenomenal because they know that he will give them an honest appraisal of a car when he tests it.
Well, Jim's very fair. He points out the things he likes about a car and the things that he doesn't like. And then it's up to the average consumer to go in and make up their own minds. Maybe the things that Jim didn't like are not as important to him. We're never happy with that sort of thing, but by and large, we think that his reports are quite fair.
I still sometimes, when I go visit people, I pull up in a Mercedes or a BMW or something, and they, boy, are you rich? And I says, no, no, no. My real car is a '76 Hornet. I'm just driving this for a week.
My goal has been, right from virtually day one, to produce a section that people will say, before I buy a car, I must read the wheel section. In other words, I want the wheel section to be must-reading for everybody in our circulation area. I want readers to think that. I want advertisers to think that.
Well, if you're the type that likes clean wheels, check these out. And remember, these are not showroom trucks. They travel North America on a weekly basis. Mighty impressive. Well, that's it for now. We will see you next week for more of Motoring 88. As for me, I think I better go home and wash the car.
Motoring 88 is brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.